Don't give a reason to take us. Time is now, no time to wait up. Keep it raw, uncut, sit down.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Railroad Uncut podcast, take 75. Because this has been quite a story. So make sure you guys like, subscribe to the podcast, YouTube TV, 2920 TV. Make sure you guys go subscribe to it. I am joined by a special guest. She is the owner of Creolas Boutique in Red Wing, Minnesota. Her family's history is deeply tied and connected to the boutique in which she owns. Welcome everybody, Natasha Rosario. How are you doing again
Good.
and again and
How are
again?
you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for being my guest.
Thanks for having me.
And once again, before we start, congratulations on your 1 year of your
Thank you.
boutique being open.
Thank you.
So we're going to ask this question right off the top of the bat. How is your family's history directly tied into the boutique in which you created?
So my great-grandmother worked at Creolas in the 1960s and 70s. It was owned by Creola Purius, who was a town socialite in the early 60s and 70s. She owned a hat shop. She owned Creolas until the late 70s, early 80s, and then there was a fire that caused it to be moved, and then they just couldn't reopen. But the interesting fact is that we didn't know that my mom's grandmother worked at this boutique in the 60s and 70s. It was just a fact that we learned after we kind of already moved here. My mom was put up for adoption in 1970, and the only information that she had was that her mother was very young, and her grandmother was a widow and worked in a boutique and was very fancy, kind of a town socialite, fur, jewels, you name it, and that it would have been very shameful if she kept her baby. So she was sent away to a maternity home. The people her age in high school thought she was sent away to take care of a sick family member.
Mm.
So there was that. But after we moved down here, I got really involved in downtown Red Wing, especially with our office space being down here and meeting the people and the small businesses in our area. And I began shopping at the store like just religiously. And I told the owner my story about how my great grandmother worked at Creolas, and she said that the store that her store is in was the original Creolas. And I just got so, like, I don't want to say obsessed, but I got really interested in becoming a part. Like, I wanted to open up a boutique. I wanted to be on that side of downtown Red Wing just because of the community and the support and everything that I seen going on down here. And so that was it. I reached out to the original Creolas family. They live in Naples, Florida, and I asked if they'd be okay with me reopening up the store, and they said absolutely. So
What were some of the challenges when it came to reopening the store?
some of the challenges were, well, a lot. There was a few people who didn't think it was okay for me to use the name, or thought it should just stay in a family, or thought it was, are you actually able to open up the store? Who gave you permission to open up the store? Well, it wasn't trademarked, so I can use whatever name I want. But it was the financial piece and making sure that I had money coming in to buy products and keep things going was the biggest challenge, especially in my first year in the winter months when everything in this small little town just kind of is at a standstill. So this is a very touristy town in the fall, in the summer and fall, but January, February, and March are just ugly. So that was my biggest challenge, is staying afloat between the slow months, especially when there isn't a lot of foot traffic and it's just a weird time of year.
How important was it for you to open up this store in Minnesota, being where you're from, and how has the community been receptive to you reopening the store? Well, opening the store, but using the Creolas name.
I mean, I've gotten a lot of really beautiful feedback. I have met people who shopped in the original Creolas that share stories with me, brought me gifts. There is a mirror, a huge, huge mirror. I don't even know how big that thing is. That was in the original Creolas, but the upstairs of that store is now apartments, and they never took the mirror off the wall. Next thing I know, like, the glass company is bringing me the mirror, and it is now in my store. So the original mirror, and I actually have picture, like, newspaper articles that have that mirror in it. And people used to talk about that mirror all the time, like, oh my gosh, how many times I looked in that mirror when I was a young girl. And just, I think people finding out who I am, because people knew my great grandmother and people knew my birth grandmother, once they realized who I was and who my mom was, then it became real. And then I started hearing stories, similar stories that happened to my birth grandmother and how they had a baby and were sent away. So it almost became a place where women had to be very hush hush about having babies or premarital sex or anything like that. It became a place where people could open up and tell their story that they were not able to tell before.
Mm. So this is a two-part question.
Mhm.
One is, how do you select what pieces go into your store? And two, how do you blend the the look of what Creolas used to be and then add your style of what Creolas is today?
So I'm a girly girl. I love pink. I love flowers. I love anything like pretty and fancy. And that was also my great grandmother. So when I met my great grandfather, I had a fur coat on, and he said, "Oh, we know who your grandma and great grandma are." So that was such a big compliment to me. But I like I said, I'm very girly. I go through and I look at each piece that I buy and I kind of like, okay, did this sell before? Is this going to sell now? Would I wear this? Can I see the people in this town wearing this? Because it's a very different community. We've got like the people who are like, I will never shop in a boutique and I don't have anywhere to wear dresses. And then I have people who would wear a dress to Target. So I try to carry both like casual and very fancy clothes in there too. So it's just kind of a mix of things. But Creolas was a very fancy store. So I try to make sure that I'm on that side of things where I have a lot of dresses and a lot of, things that you'd wear on a special occasion because that was Creola. She wasn't just a jeans and sweatshirt kind of lady. She was very fancy. So
So
if I
how did
didn't honor that,
oh
it would
I'm
be a problem.
Oh
You're
yeah,
good.
yeah. I heard. I'm sorry. So how do you manage to blend? Meaning, like, how do you manage to have people who probably normally wouldn't come in the store? How do you manage to try to attract them into your store? Because sometimes when people think of the word boutique,
Yep.
they think like really high upscale. So they may be able to think that maybe they can't afford anything in a boutique. So how do you bring those people in who possibly think that maybe they're not able to afford something, but then if they come in there and they see something, they might be surprised and see what they probably can afford.
So what I noticed about the clothes that I would buy from other boutiques in town is that the clothing versus like the clothing in boutiques are really high quality clothing. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
not something that you just wash and it's going to fall apart. Everything that I bought was just incredible. And that's what kind of attracted me. Like everything that I've bought, it might be a little bit more pricey, but they last forever. They wash really nice. So that's a lot of people were like, I'd never shop in a boutique. Well, consider it kind of an investment in yourself. You deserve that. You don't, people are like, oh, I just go to Walmart. Well, how long does that piece of clothing last for you? Not very long, because once you throw it in the washing machine, it's going to fall apart. Whereas the clothing that are carried in boutiques are much higher quality. So that has really brought people in to buy clothing from the store. Like, yeah, you're right. The quality of these clothes are really good compared to shopping at, big box retailers.
So, what do you want a customer to think the minute that they walk into your store?
I want them to feel like they can find anything in here. And even if they weren't a dressy person or, I get a lot of, I'm not that feminine. Like you feel that way when you walk in. I want somebody to walk into my store and feel beautiful, or at least feel beautiful when they're walking out of the store. So that's my biggest goal, is to give confidence to those who don't have it or lack it, I should say.
How do you deal with the negativity that comes with stuff like this? Because honestly, if you're a successful business, you're running a successful business, everything seems to be good, there's always going to be met with some type of negativity behind it, sadly. So how do you navigate around that while also trying to stay positive and still keep your store running and still, be a wife and still be a mother? Because all of that stuff all factors into just life in general. So how do you manage to just navigate around that?
Well, the part of being a wife and a mother, I will say that my husband is incredibly hands-on. He is a very hands-on father. So I am incredibly blessed in that part of my life. He has been like my number one like cheerleader, like making sure that the store is staying up and running and making sure our kids have dinner and are off to sports. So he plays a huge role in me being able to do everything that I need to do. Like I absolutely would not be able to do any of this without him. As much as I might complain sometimes about him, there is absolutely no way. He is the backbone to my success here. And as far as the negativity goes, I haven't gotten a ton of it. I do get a few, like, based on the corner that I'm on, because there's a lot of traffic. Like, no store has ever been able to survive longer than a year on this corner, or good luck in the winter months. You know, there is people who just, I think, walk around just looking to be negative, and I kind of just take it with a grain of salt and, you know, cry about it later. But at the moment, I just smile and, yep, we're gonna be here a year from now, and we're still here. So.
Yeah, you said that they just said that some stores don't make it a year. You passed it.
Yep, yep. And it's the corner that we're on too. So that the where my store is located, there's been quite a few different stores in there, but they were never a boutique, and it wasn't Creolas where people remember it. So I have that advantage that I reopened up something that meant so much to people who live here.
How many clothing stores are around that area?
Oh, let's see. About five.
That is, yeah, that's pretty competitive if you think about it.
It is. It is. But we're all very different. Like, we've got one that, you know, she's very, I would say, Gen Z, where she carries a lot of like the squishies and what are they now?
Hmm.
The dumplings. Like, she carries a lot of like cutesy kid stuff, you know, that kids are into. And then we have one that, you know, has, you know, her slogan is "Come as you are," and she's got sizes anywhere from extra small to 3X. And then, you know, she's very casual. And then there's my store. It's a little bit more, I'm kind of the dressier store. I carry a lot of dresses. People, you know, they'll send people down to me if they're looking for a dress to go to a wedding or graduation. So I carry a lot of fancy formal pieces. So we're all different in our own way.
Oh, so I'd imagine that this time of the year is really busy for you.
Yes.
Proms, yeah. So,
Yes.
so what? How exciting is it that you get to, you know, dress a young lady for her prom?
I wouldn't we have so much prom dresses, but as far as like, I just had a girl come in today, and she was looking for a pink and yellow dress because those were the colors of her graduation party, like the balloons and the flowers. And we had the perfect dress. And she was so happy when she came out of that dressing room and did like a twirl. And then
Oh,
we had the Miss Minnesota pageant girls come in and
mhm.
go shopping. And I mean, it's so exciting to just see these girls like be so in love with these pieces that I picked out personally. But it is, I love when somebody puts on a dress in my store and walks out in it, or is like, I'm not leaving the store without it. So yeah, those are, there's, that feeling is undescribable.
Mm.
Indescribable.
Yeah, we understand what you're saying, though. I get it. So what is the to a person starting a business or having a
Mhm.
business so far, as long as you have and a successful one at that, what is the pros to keeping your business around, let's just say right now, for a year running? And then what are some of the obstacles that may have tried to get in your way to stop you from having this store for around a year?
I think the pros is that people who doubted that I would still be here a year from now because of just my location and the economy. I think still being here and still growing and adding to my store and like, you know, adding things in my store. Like, we have new display tables in there. We have more products in there now. I'm adding little girls' clothing. So that is in itself shows growth. The hardest part is just the winter months because of the town that we're in. We're in a touristy little town, and come the winter months when it's 30 below, and
Mm,
we're kind of, and Red Wing is in the middle. So on each side of Red Wing, it's like 35 miles before the next biggest town. So you either gonna go south 30 miles and you hit the big city of Rochester where Mayo Hospital is, or you head north and then the Twin Cities. So we're kind of in the middle where we're just our own little world down here. So that's what makes it hard, is that we are kind of in an isolated little area. But, you know, and online sales have been challenging for me. So, but we're working on that.
so when the winter time comes and it's really cold and it's like really snowy out there and stuff like
Mhm.
that, I imagine how challenging it is to actually get to your store for customers. So
No, not at
no,
all.
really,
No, no, we
really.
live about 2.5 minutes away. So
Oh,
we live downtown Red Wing. Well, just up the hill a little bit. So so even on the really snowy days, and sometimes those snowy cold days and rainy days for some reason are my busiest days. So everybody else was closing on a snowstorm, and I decided that I was not going to close on this snowstorm. So I went into work and I stayed open until noon, and I got some sales. And plus I'm on Highway 61 too, so Main Street, and that's like the main highway to get in between the cities. So you can't miss me when, and that's one of my advantages is my store is bright pink with flowers on the outside. So you can't miss me. And a lot of people just say, I've been meaning to stop. I pass it every day on the way to work. So even on those cold, snowy days, people do stop. So I make sure that I stay open.
Oh, so you have an advantage. Living close to your job is actually a real
It's
advantage.
beautiful. I could
So
walk here. So,
yeah, so when some people can't make it, like you said, during the winter
right.
days, you're here. So people are looking to just buy something or just be out.
Yeah.
Oh, that super advantage. I honestly.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the history of your family. You
Okay.
mentioned that your mom was sent away,
Yes.
and I've heard this from a few people like that. When I've grown up, that like the like because obviously it's not like that today, but like in the past, it's always been like if a young woman had a baby and it was considered, like you said, it would be considered shameful. So they would send them away, but they would tell them they went away to do something else.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that and how that has affected your family throughout the years.
So between 1943 and 1972 or 73, 4 million babies were placed for adoption through what they called like the baby scoop era, where it was almost like, and I don't want
That's
to offend anybody when I say this, it was almost like the Catholic churches and other churches and places like that kind of took advantage of that. It was right after, World War II, especially in the 40s, and a lot of women couldn't have babies for whatever reason. That's a whole different story. But there was no sex education, there was no birth control, there was nothing. So these young girls are getting pregnant at an alarming rate, and then it becomes like this horrible thing, like you're going to shame the whole family, no man will ever want to marry you, you're going to be homeless, who's going to take care of your baby? So then the churches and the Salvation Army and a few other places, Lutheran Social Services, Catholic Charities built these homes that these women could be sent off to, where they would do manual labor because you're a terrible person. You were, having premarital sex and you got yourself into this, predicament, and now we have to deal with you. So these homes, these girls would get sent away to, they'd have to wear wedding rings, they'd have to give people fake names. They couldn't be seen outside. I mean, and if they were seen outside, they had to have their wedding ring on. And it was crazy to me. Like this, like
Wait,
I
so
went down. Yeah.
they had to pretend to be something they weren't?
Exactly. So if they could go out in public, so we'll use my grandmother's story. So
Mm-hmm.
she was 7 months pregnant before her mom found out. And when her mom found out, she was like, she went to the church and talked to the priest, and the priest was like, hold on, I'm going to make a phone call for you. So he gets on the phone, gets a hold of Seton Services in the Twin Cities and says, I've got a girl down here that got herself into some trouble. Do you have any openings?
That's
Next thing you
wild.
know, yep, next thing you
Wow.
know, she's in a cab in the middle of the night being sent to the Twin Cities, which was probably very intimidating to her, being 15 years old and being sent from a small town into the Twin Cities. And she was brought in, it's ran by nuns. There's social workers who are supposed to, assist you in this process, but really all it was is a coercion to sign your rights over. So a lot of the laws were covered up, like they didn't know that they had a choice to keep their babies. They were just told, like, if you keep your baby, you can't go home. You're going to shame the whole town. No man will want to marry you. They'd use a lot of coercion tactics, like, well, I talked to the father of your child and he doesn't want anything to do with you. So these girls would get scared and they would have their baby. If they went into labor, they were sent down the street to St. Joseph's Hospital. They'd have their baby. They'd come back to the home. They got to be with their baby for 3 days. And then the third day, they left their baby there and they had to leave. And that was it. And that's exactly my mom's story. So when my grandmother got back to school in the fall, she told people that she was in Kansas taking care of a sick family member. And then some people thought she was sick and was sent to Kansas to get better. So it was a lot of different things. But everybody knew. Everybody knew she was pregnant and was sent away. So it was just one of those things that you just told yourself, like, yep, I was sent away to take care of a sick family member, and you never spoke about it again.
This is wild because this is messing my head up because for one, they put shame on in your case your grandmother who was
Yeah.
15. They put
Yeah.
shame on her, but they don't put shame on the possible adult man who got her pregnant.
No. Nope. It was it was just one of those things. So it wasn't his fault. It was her fault because she got herself pregnant. And so now she has to pay the consequences and get sent away. But in my grandfather's case, he knew that she was pregnant and she was sent away, and he had no idea where she was. He had no idea where the baby was. He had no idea, So it was just one of those things where he was told he was to never see her again and not to ask any questions. But, and I know from things that I hear, he was very worried about where my mom was. So when he met my mom, he said it was a sense of relief that she was alive and healthy, and that's all he ever wanted, was to just know she was okay. So
this is a wild story. Like, this is
it's
a wild story.
crazy.
So how did this affect your family as a whole? Like, up until now, even?
Growing up, my mom, so I'm half Puerto Rican, so half of me, I know who I am. I know where I come from. I know, my dad's side of the family. I have first cousins. But on my mom's side, she had no idea who she was or where she came from. So she could walk by anybody down the street, and that could be her mother, that could be her sister, that could be her brother, and she didn't know. So it was her whole life just kind of, the only thing that she had of herself was just this paper from the orphanage giving her little details about her birth family. So I can't imagine, and we didn't really think about it growing up because we had amazing adopted grandparents who just loved us unconditionally. But for her, she just spent her whole life just never knowing who she was or where she came from until she got this piece of paper. So, and then the craziest part of it all is we grew up just 30 miles from where my mom's birth family is. So it's very well that we could have crossed paths with these people and had no idea.
It is so crazy to me, your story, that, like, and this is probably one of the deepest stories I've ever had on this podcast, but it's so crazy to me that your whole history is tied within the store and that town of Minnesota. Like,
Yes.
It's so crazy. But the whole part of this whole, like, being pregnant and sending your kids away, and like, at least your grandfather got to know she was okay when she came back.
Yep.
Wait, so they told him he was taught to never speak to her again.
You are to never see her again. Yep.
So what was it like from what they tell you? What was it like when she came back and he saw her again?
He said that he's got a few different stories. He said that she just absolutely ignored him. But
Really?
I think the more and more like he sees my mom, and the more and more it's brought back to life, because he buried this, as she, my grandmother probably did too. And he just moved on with life. Like, I will just never know. And, went off and got married and had children. But I think the more and more it's in his face now, and I reopened up Creolas, which was also, a part of his story growing up too. The more and more he's remembering. So he did tell me a story. He's like, yeah, he saw her at a kegger like a few months after she had the baby, and he said that he saw blood, and so he got out of there. So there was a lot of like, because she could have been told like by the social workers, I talked to the father and he doesn't want anything to do with you. So in her mind, she was probably waiting for him to, like, no, he's not going to make me put this baby up for adoption. He's going to come and get me. He's going to find me, and we're going to leave, and we're going to raise our baby. Meanwhile, he was told that she was somewhere completely different. He had no idea where she was. So, and I can't imagine that if he did know where she was, that he wouldn't have tried or something to, let her know that it's going to be okay. He had no clue. He had no idea. And even if she was allowed to maybe like walk down the street and use the payphone, even if she called his house, his father, somebody would have said, he's not home, he's not taking phone calls, because they just wanted them completely separate from each other. So she came back and she had to, but he knew she was a girl. So there must have been a conversation in there somewhere where she said she had a girl. So I don't know. My grandfather, he's kind of spotty on what he remembers a little bit because it was so long ago, but he just said we split up and we were to never see each other again, but they still had to go to the same high school, which was such a small class. So they still saw each other.
That is crazy. Maybe she didn't speak to him too, baby, because she was afraid of what might happen if somebody said that, So it put them both in a bad situation, because it's like, she goes away. Obviously, he knows she was pregnant when she went away. She comes back. Now she doesn't have a baby anymore. He's probably wondering what happened to the baby.
Yes.
She sees him, and based on probably what nuns and the Catholic, and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother conversation. But based on what they probably told her, they probably filled her up with so much hate towards him.
Yes.
So even when she comes back and sees him, and then he sees her, because whoever probably filled his head up with so much information,
Yes.
they probably hated each other and didn't even have a reason to really hate each other.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
That is so wild. That is a wild
Yes.
story. So
Yes.
with as crazy as that sounds, how important is family to you?
Family to me has gotten, because like I said, I grew up in a big family on my dad's side. My family, my Puerto Rican family, that was huge for me, at least. Family has always been very important. But like I said, on my mom's side of the family, it was just her. And then the only kids that she had that she knew for sure were her kids. And then that was it. And now that I'm learning so much about our roots and where we came from, like family took on a whole different meaning. Like the the two different worlds that I came from, and just it's insane to me. It's insane to me that that is my mom's story, because of course growing up we didn't care. Like we never asked our mom questions. And then to find out that her story is a part of history, and then I was able to close gaps for her and reopen up this store that she wanted to know her whole life. Like it's been a whirlwind. It has been crazy, but it has been truly a blessing. And for my mom too, to get the answers that she's wanted her whole life and to be able to be a part of that has been the best part of it all.
Is it? This is a weird. It's not a weird question to ask, but like with the situations like that with your family and what they went through, is it hard for certain family members to display love considering what they went through? Like in your grandfather's case, is it
Yep.
hard for him to love the way maybe we think like our grandparents should love us or love family based on how they were growing up?
Yes. So the thing is so when he found out about my mom, and then he found out he's got 4 grandchildren and then 4 great grandchildren, but he is such a loving, funny man, and he looks at my mom with all the love in the world, and that he just looks at her like he cannot believe that he's got this entire family that he knew nothing. Well, he knew, he had a child out there, but all of a sudden here she is with her entire family. So I think we'll never really have that relationship like we would have had if we would have known him our whole life, and knowing
Hmm.
who he is. And he has a farm that I would drive past every day on my way to work 20 years ago and did not know that that was my grandfather's
Crazy.
farm. Crazy. But I think, we missed out on having him as our grandfather growing up. So, but we still have time, and he's funny and he's a storyteller, and the way he looks at my mom is just, it's truly remarkable. But yes, I do think, are you asking kind of like, do you think it would be hard? Ask the question again.
No, I was just saying, like, was it hard for him to display the love, or like, was it hard for you guys to feel like he could love y'all the way y'all think he should, considering what he went through?
Yeah, I mean, yes, because we're meeting him later in life. He's in his 70s. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we missed out on him and he missed out on us. But I don't think I didn't really feel that way, only because my mom's adopted parents, like the love that we had for my grandma and grandpa is indescribable. There we go again, indescribable. So it wasn't one of those things where we felt like, oh my gosh, now we finally have grandparents. And we had grandparents and they were really good to us. So this was just kind of an added bonus in any capacity that we could get to know my grandfather is good enough for me. Even if, he stops at the stoplight when he's going to the gas station and rolls down the window and I run out there and, give him a hug, or, that to me, just knowing who he is, and he is a part of my history. He is my maternal grandfather. That is enough for me.
That was an awesome story for it to come around full circle. And
Yeah.
how is he? How is he with your kids?
He is such a storyteller. Like he's so silly, and he's got cows, and he's one of those guys where he just makes you laugh no matter what it is. And he's so good with kids. Like we kind of, people call him Mr. Red Wing because he's just lived here his whole life, and like everybody knows him, and he's so handsome, and people will call him Frankie Blue Eyes and things like that. So, but he's so good with my kids, and he tries to remember all of them, but he's got so many grandkids now that he's got to remember. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he does the best he can in the situation that he was given. So there's a lot of respect for that.
Is there any type of relationship with your grandfather and grandmother?
No, no,
Really?
not. I think he said he's seen her. Oh gosh, 40 years ago, I think he said, and he saw her from afar, and he remembered what color shirt she had on. But I will say that my grandfather's wife, so we call her Granny Gwen, has been the
Hmm.
real MVP here, because imagine being married to your husband for 36 years, and then all of a sudden this woman shows up with her kids and is like, "Hey, you're my dad." She has wrapped her arms around our entire family and has just been like, "You guys are home now." So she's the real MVP in all of this.
That made transitioning into the family
Yes,
a lot easier.
absolutely.
That is an awesome story. Like for real. I
Oh,
mean, it really is a story of like understanding. Like I don't think a lot of people realize how bad, and I'm gonna be honest with you, how bad women had it back then.
yes, yes.
Like because like I said, nobody really put the blame on your grandfather. They put all the blame on her. They shipped
Yep.
her away, then made her then she had the baby, and they pretty much was like, here, spend some time with this baby that is yours,
Hmm.
that came out of you for 9 months,
Yep.
but then you got to say bye to this baby in 3 days, and
Yeah.
you should never see this baby again, and you should feel ashamed for having this baby in the first place.
Yes. Yes. That is exactly what happened.
So for someone like your grandmother to still be able to survive that and not have a
Yes.
mental breakdown or even go crazy seeing your grandfather again once she came back, because you never know how that could have been. That could
Oh,
have
I
really went
mean, it could have been. I've
like.
read stories, I've heard stories, and I'm like, I'm lucky that this is completely opposite of what could have happened.
So now I'm gonna ask you this question now,
Mhm.
considering all of this as everything, family. When you think of the word family, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
It wouldn't be so much like blood. It would just be the people in your life who support you and who've been there for you since day one. I think family has taken on an completely different meaning, because I have family. I have great aunts that just live down the street from me now, and they're family, but I don't really know them, but that's my blood family. So I think I guess that word has got so many different meanings to me, because, like I said, I have my family that I've grown up with and known my whole life, but now I have this entire family that, you know what I mean? So I think that word is so universal in my life. Like, you could be an aunt walking down the street and I have no idea who you are, but you're my family. And then I have my family that I grew up with and love and care for. So family is just one of those words that it takes on a lot of different meanings in my life.
Hmm. So I have two more questions before we close out. The first
Yeah.
question is, what do you do? What do you instill in your boys when it comes to life at this point? Because they're still young, but what is the
Mhm.
most important thing you try to instill into them?
Just to be really good, be really good men growing up, and they have, and they are so proud of where they come from and who their dad is and their grandma and grandpa that lives in the Bronx, and they are just they especially their dad. Their dad really instills family and aunts and uncles and cousins in their life, so they are very family oriented and very proud of where they come from. So for my kids to just maintain that loyalty to their family and who they are and where they came from, especially being we are a Hispanic family in this small town, so to always be proud of who you are. And that is a conversation that we have with them daily. Like, you are different, you are beautiful, you are so many different things, especially in this small town where there isn't a ton of diversity, and we are Hispanic business owners downtown Red Wing, and that is actually a little unheard of. So,
Mm, that's awesome. And then the last question I usually ask everybody before I close out: you being yourself now, your age now, what would you tell your younger self?
oh gosh, that life is not going to turn out how you expect it to, not at all. From being 20 years old and like looking back at even 10 years ago, if you would have told me you will be living in Red Wing, Minnesota, because when I worked down here, I hated even driving down here, and it took me 25 minutes. Like, I hated it. I hated everything about this town. I switched jobs so I wouldn't have to drive down here anymore, to it
Mm,
becoming the one of the best parts of my life, is just insane to me. So I would have never guessed. I mean, I went to school for law enforcement to be a police officer, and like then I was in nursing for a while, and I worked in jails and prisons for years and years and years. So to be a boutique owner in this little small town, never. So I would just tell myself, like, hey, no matter what you think is going to happen, it's not going to happen.
Red Wing is you, believe it or not.
It is.
Red
So,
Wing is you and everything your family comes from.
but the best part is, you know, we've got somebody from the Bronx, like the down and dirty Bronx, 194th and Marion. Living in this small little river town is the best part of it all.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a quick question about that before I close
Yep.
out. What is life like for him living here?
Different,
okay.
very, very different.
What was it first like when he moved there?
So when he first moved here, we lived in the Twin Cities. So it was a little like we had more food options, more, you know, there is like a Puerto Rican community in where we lived, especially on like the west side of the Twin Cities. That is primarily Hispanic, Latino. So there was quite, I mean, not anything compared to New York, but the food, you could still get the food. But when we moved to Red Wing, it was almost like, what are we going to do now? Luckily, he knows how to cook because there is nowhere around here. But I will say that we do have a few other Puerto Rican families in this community that we've met. He became a part of the Hispanic outreach, a board member. So for him to, and then he lives in a big house with a yard and dogs and his kids. So I think no matter what he thought or no matter what he felt, he has these things that he did not have growing up. And that's all that's important to him, that he's able to give those to his kids and give his kids, you know, a quiet, safe life and not growing up in the hustle and bustle of the city. So everything that he's ever wanted for his kid or for himself growing up is what he's been able to give his kids. But he also became a part of the Red Wing. Like I said, he became a part of the Red Wing community right away. Like he kind of jumped in here like I did. Like I said, he was part of the Hispanic outreach right away. He's a business owner in downtown Red Wing. And, you know, he does a lot of donating and a lot of good in the community. So he's kind of just taken it on and hasn't really complained.
Oh, I'm gonna make sure I send it to him. I'm gonna be like, look, she gave you a very great compliment.
Yes, and then when he goes back to when he goes home, I think he misses like it being quiet and like he misses his house and like you know what I mean. So it's kind of funny how that works. He'll complain about not being there, and then when he's there, he just wants to come home. So
yeah, definitely. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Yes.
So let people know where they can purchase your products. Let them know if they need to contact you. Where would they be able to contact you?
All right. So you can email me at withlove@creolasredwing.com, but my website is creolasredwing.com, and then that's where you can order online. I ship anywhere in the United States. And then I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, and it's Creolas_Redwing.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. We finally got this done.
Yes, we finally got it done.
It was 7 takes. Maybe 5, but it felt like it was like 7 takes. A couple of little minor miscues here and there, but we got it done.
And it was fun. So.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I very appreciate you. Thank you
so much.
You enjoy the rest.
You too. Bye.
Tell him not. Keep it raw, uncut, sit down, talk it out, come together, we as man, don't have to shoot it out.